The storm is no longer on the horizon. It's here, a violent maelstrom, tearing apart everything in its path. And at its center, the collapse of No Jumper. This is the end game, the violent reckoning that has been years in the making. That video, the one now spreading like wildfire across the internet, is the thunderclap that signals the storm's arrival. And with it, everything that No Jumper has stood for, every ounce of clout, every moment of reckless bravado, will be ripped apart in an instant. What we witness in this footage is not just violence. It's savagery, pure and unfiltered. Wack 100 and Loose Cannon, two men who've spent their lives feeding off chaos, unleash hell on two defenseless bodies. These aren't goons. No, these are broken figures, barely able to hold their own. One of them, fragile, weak, almost sickly, crumbles with a single punch. His body doesn't even have the will to fight back. It just gives in, hitting the floor like a rag doll, lifeless, as the strap slams into his skull. His partner? Equally pathetic. He stands there, frozen, watching the destruction unfold before him, completely passive. He doesn't even flinch. He does nothing. He's just waiting for his turn, and when it comes, he doesn't even try to escape it. It's as though he's already accepted his fate, like a lamb waiting for the slaughter. But here's the darkest truth of all. This wasn't a heat-of-the-moment flare-up. No, this was deliberate. This was staged. They filmed it. They posted it. They shared it like a trophy. Why? To prove something? To flex? To show they could dominate the weak? They humiliate these men, strip them bare, leaving them exposed, vulnerable, nothing but their flesh and blood. And for what? So Loose Cannon can sit behind a screen. He thinks this makes him feared. This wasn't a battle, Loose Cannon. This wasn't even a fight. This was you picking on two broken souls who couldn't defend themselves. This was pure cowardice disguised as toughness. But it gets worse. The aftermath. The trash talk. Loose Cannon, with his chest puffed out and his ego inflated, claims to be the one who handles his business. He acts like he's some kind of legendary figure, ready for any challenge. But let's call it what it is, hollow words. A coward's attempt at pretending to be the monster he wishes he was. You beat two defenseless men, and now you think you've earned some kind of badge? You think you've become a legend? No, you've just exposed the emptiness of your character. And yet, the worst part is still to come, because the violence doesn't stop with a video. It doesn't stop with words. It's a cycle, a curse that feeds on itself. And No Jumper? It's in the crossfire. This is the undeniable truth. When you build your empire on violence and chaos, you can't escape it. Chaos becomes your shadow, following you wherever you go. Adam 22, the man who's too blind to see the storm brewing around him, is complicit in this madness. He surrounds himself with the very people who thrive on destruction, gangsters, criminals, people who bring nothing but danger, and acts surprised when it all falls apart. The violence that's been festering in the shadows is now bleeding into the light. Shooting, threats, constant tension. It's only a matter of time before it escalates to something irreversible. Someone is going to die because of this. When the dust settles, when the bodies are counted and the wreckage is surveyed, No Jumper will be nothing more than a cautionary tale. The empire built on drama, on violence, on empty threats and hollow bravado will crumble. It will collapse under the weight of its own recklessness. The storm will have claimed its prize, and we will look back at this moment, the moment when this video went viral, as the point where the downfall began. It's all coming to an end, and it's going to be brutal. In the storm, it doesn't just roar. It's becoming a relentless, unstoppable force. The descent is far from over. No Jumper is on the brink, hanging by a thread, and now, the mouth of Wack 100 opens wide, and the venom that drips from it only makes everything worse. His words, laced with arrogance and entitlement, spill out like gasoline on an already raging fire. "Do not come playing with me, bro," he spits, his tone a chilling promise of devastation. His voice, full of smug confidence, reveals a terrifying truth. When he walks in a no-jumper, he's not just a man. He's an army. He's surrounded by a wall of protection, inside and out. His people are positioned, watching, waiting, ready to spring into action at a moment's notice. Wack makes it clear, if you think you're going to roll up on him, unannounced, you're dead wrong. He doesn't entertain surprises. He doesn't do walk-ups. Protocol is protocol, rules the game. You want a conversation? You check in. You ask permission. Anything less? You're nothing more than prey. The dark storm is intensifying, and the thunder crackles louder, shaking the very foundations of No Jumper. Adam 22, desperate to claw his way out of the wreckage, spits out a half-hearted attempt to salvage his image, but it's too late. The tide is turning, and nothing can stop it now. His words, though veiled in cowardice, are laced with a chilling undercurrent of truth. If you do any of that, it's over. What he fails to admit, what he's trying to sidestep, is that his platform was never built on clean hands. His rise to power was carved from the very chaos he now claims to want to avoid. The problem isn't the violence, it's the consequences. Now, with everything falling apart around him, Adam 22 wants to distance himself from the bloodshed he helped foster. He wants to feign innocence, as if he didn't invite the very beast into his den. But the beast is awake now, and it's hungry. He talks about protecting his peace, protecting his brand. But let's face it, there's no peace in a place that thrives on gang politics, on the very chaos that Adam 22 is fed and fueled. Wack 100, with all his bluster and bravado, is the only reason No Jumper hasn't already crashed into irrelevance. He's the force that's kept it from toppling, yet Adam 22 wants to pretend like he can just wash his hands of him when things get hot. You can't get rid of Wack, Adam. Without him, the storm will consume you. Without him, your platform will wither and die. But it's not Wack 100 Adam is really concerned about, is it? It's Loose Cannon. The loose cannon that has caused the firestorm outside his building. The one who dragged the chaos to his doorstep. The one who made No Jumper a literal battlefield. Adam, too cowardly to name names, tries to distance himself, speaking in riddles, acting as though firing Loose Cannon would somehow cleanse him of the mess he helped create. But it's not that simple. You can't just kick out a problem that's embedded deep in your brand. No Jumper is already tainted, and no amount of soft words will fix the poison that's spread. This is a hostile, dangerous place now. Interviews are a risk. The cameras no longer capture content. They capture danger, chaos, and violence. No one wants to come to a platform where their safety is at risk, where the next viral moment could be their own blood being spilled. Adam 22 has made his bed, and now he's trying to pretend like he has any control over it. But he doesn't. It's too late. His platform is bleeding, and the blood is soaking everything. So now, the question lingers in the air, thick and suffocating. When will the inevitable happen? When will the consequences come crashing down? And who will pay the price? One thing is for sure, No Jumper is sinking fast, and Adam 22 can't escape the storm he helped stir. It's only a matter of time before everything unravels. And when it does, it will be brutal. And that's exactly what these two men found out the hard way. They thought they could stroll in, claim to have business with Wack, and demand his attention. They weren't even on the schedule. They didn't follow the protocol. And Wack's response? Swift and unforgiving. He says it with chilling certainty. They were handled. No mercy. No second chances. Immediately, they were dispatched. Beat down. Stripped. Robbed. Left in the dirt. It wasn't just a lesson in respect. It was a warning. A brutal, unforgiving warning to anyone who dares to cross the line. Wack's message is crystal clear. If you think you're going to roll up on him without consequences, you've got another thing coming. Now, for all the wannabe tough guys out there, the content creators hiding behind screens, thinking they're untouchable, did you hear what Wack 100 said? You can't just run up on him and press him without getting your head pushed in. Those two men, they weren't just victims of an altercation. They were the sacrificial lambs for anyone thinking they could step to Wack without paying the price. So go ahead, make your moves, try to make your names, but know this. The moment you step out of line, the consequences will be swift, and they'll be brutal. But here's where the story takes another sickening turn. Wack 100, while full of threats and bravado, isn't as untouchable as he thinks. Even in his arrogance, he's quick to tell the world that he was just trying to defuse the situation. As his goon, Loose Cannon, pulled out a strap, Wack's voice trembled through the chaos, trying to hold him back, trying to stop the madness from escalating even further. But the damage had already been done. The violence was inevitable, and it couldn't be stopped. What's disturbing, what's truly chilling, is that Wack's trying to spin this as some kind of controlled operation. I couldn't stop it, he says, trying to present himself as a bystander. But we all know the truth. Wack was a part of it. He fueled it. He endorsed it. And then the weight of the fallout crashes in. Adam 22, the so-called leader of this disaster, knows that his empire is crumbling. The violence, the brutality, the aftermath, it's all too much. His name is at stake. His brand is teetering on the edge of a legal nightmare. Lawsuits, police involvement, the risk of irreparable damage to his company. This is what he's really worried about. That's why, in a moment of panic, he takes to his platform, trying to salvage whatever shred of control he has left. He doesn't care about loyalty. He doesn't care about the men involved. He's only worried about protecting his brand. And so, in a desperate attempt to distance himself from the chaos, he makes it clear: any form of violence, any act of aggression on his property, is grounds for immediate exile. You're out. No exceptions. But it's too late. The rot has already set in. The damage is done. No jumper is bleeding, and the blood is staining everything in its path. This isn't a moment that can be erased. The violent echoes of this day will reverberate through the corridors of No Jumper, and no amount of damage control can put the genie back in the bottle. The storm is here, and it's only getting worse. That concludes today's video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you're alerted whenever a new video drops. It's completely free and helps out the channel tremendously. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.